फील्स लाइक कि हर एक साल हम घर में एक शादी करते हैं और फैमिली के बहुत सारे मेंबर्स, बहुत करीबी रिश्तेदार आपको हर साल देखने को मिलते हैं. सो इट फील्स लाइक अ होम फॉर अस बिकॉज all of you have been part of CSRBOX ecosystem and CSR and philanthropy ecosystem for last couple of years. Before I get into this, let me officially welcome dignitaries on the dais. Honorable Dr. Rajbhushan Chaudhary ji, thanks a lot for sparing time on short notice to be part of this entire initiative. Honorable Shri Dinesh Gundurao sir, we have met in Bangalore multiple times, but it's good to have you here in Delhi. So heartiest welcome on behalf of CSRBOX Group. Shri Shavji, Padma Shri Savji Dholakia ji, many of you know him as industrialist, but he's more of a philanthropist now and working as a catalytic force for environment, and we'll know about it very soon. So heartiest welcome on behalf of entire CSRBOX Group. What I really want to talk about before I get into India ESG Outlook Report and nuances of entire analysis. 10 years back in 2014, when we started our journey in entire CSR and philanthropy space, many of you who are sitting here have been part of that start point for us. Many of you played that role where we started learning from the practices that you were doing. My academic professor is sitting here in the front line, with whom I did masters. My professional professor, Dr. Bhaskar Chatterjee, is sitting here, who really guided all of us in the entire CSR domain. So thanks a lot for enabling the entire CSR and philanthropy ecosystem for India. Many of you have really paved the way for us that what role we can play as an organization. Back in 2014, when we started with 2 members team and working towards CSR ecosystem enablement with our core research work, and the first report was India CSR Outlook Report, which is now flagship publication of entire sector year after year, which will be unveiled tomorrow with the 10th edition. And we have new report coming in, India ESG Outlook Report, which is the first of its kind edition. I'll get into the details in the next 2 minutes. Before that, just want to set the context here that as a CSR, we are getting into 30,000 plus crore sector in itself. When we combine CSR, sustainability, philanthropy, and everything happening around that, we are close to 4 lakh crore sector in itself, which is technically very large when you look at numbers. And CSR and sustainability has really become a cross-cutting, and we all know that many of the professionals wear multiple hats in their respective companies or organizations, handling both CSR and ESG or sustainability. In that context, it becomes very imperative for us that we also as an organization evolve to next level and find pathways and create those research and analysis which can help the sector to derive learning, get the peer experiences, and probably have a cross-learning from and cross-exchange as well. When we started again 10 years back in the first event in 2014, we were really even struggling to get one senior IS officer in the event. Last 10 years, with support from all of you in this industry, in the entire CSR segment, and I want to really go off here in terms of what happened. We all know the last 7 days have been very catalytic in the entire political ecosystem. And my team literally sitting on agenda for last 3 days has been struggling. If PM is changing his schedule, our agenda is changing because 2 or 3 honorable ministers have to shift our presence in the entire event. And that really happened, and that's where probably last 3 days team has very sleepless nights. कि अगर कहीं swearing in है तो our agenda is getting impacted. If there is a PM calling a meeting, our agenda is getting impacted. So all those things have happened because of massive support that we have received from all of you. And I really want to thank you on behalf of CSRBOX Group to all of you for being part of this entire journey and evolving with us in this entire CSR and philanthropy ecosystem. Those of you who know us only for this India CSR and ESG Summit wanted to set a couple of more pointers that we as an organization, India CSR Summit is just 2% of our entire portfolio. We have evolved with this in the last 10 years to next level where we work with large setup in state governments to enable CSR and philanthropic support and systemic strength from the government side. Our team sits with close to 24 state governments in various departments to enable CSR and government partnerships. And in fact, in 2 states, we are sitting as a nodal agency for CSR partnership facilitation to ensure that government has an understanding that how CSR fund can be used in an effective manner. On the other side, helping CSR and boardroom to understand what is required in states based on the need and demand, and how do we really leverage the systemic strength of the government to optimally use the resources which are there under CSR and philanthropy. Another example for the scale on which we operate, for those who are not aware about us, for honorable Dias members here, we operate a very large-scale road safety program as an execution agency under CSR. And on just to put the number, every 13th driving license which is issued in India, that license goes through a programmatic intervention where behavior change program is a compulsory part of getting the license. We are reaching to a level in next 3 months where every 10th driving license in India will be issued only after the person goes for a behavior change communication program enabled in the RTO centers. Our team currently sits in 45 RTO centers and will grow by numbers in next few weeks. One another program we run, and Colgate team is sitting here, we run world's largest oral care awareness program for Colgate-Palmolive in India, and we touch close to 3 crore students. We have touched close to 3 crore students in this entire gamut. We have touched almost 3% of India's above 6 to 8 class student in this entire gamut for oral care awareness program. So that's how we are enabling and leveraging government partnership as well. And when you will look at another report which will be unveiled tomorrow, you'll be surprised by the fact which have come out from the boardrooms of the large companies that government partnership is becoming a mandatory criteria for CSR projects approval in the boardrooms. So there is a checklist which board looks now, whether there's a government partnership happening in the CSR project or not. So I'm really, for all the non-profits sitting here, this is becoming mandatory, and we really need to learn that how do you leverage government system at the local, regional, and national level. As we are having ESG Summit as well in this entire gamut, wanted to say, and you must be surprised that when you registered today, you haven't received any delegate kit. It's intentionally designed ESG Summit. By not giving you the brochures in the entire kit, we have saved close to 7,12,000 pages. Just imagine that. By not giving you anything in terms of physical thing, and even printing of any stuff happening for this entire event, we have saved close to 8,500 2-liter water. So that's what we wanted to bring the entire narrative into practice, and we wanted to move to next level event in the sustainability segment, where everything that we are doing, we walk the talk. And we really wanted all of us to follow that. When tomorrow you will receive another delegate kit, and in your application system, you will not get anything physical, except a kit which you have to carry, except the bag, jute bag. So no printing has happened for this entire event, and we are really proud of what we have been able to achieve for this event and walk the talk in the sustainability segment. If you can quickly have the India ESG Outlook Report for the launch, and I also invite Ritika to join the stage with us, who has worked on this report with the team members, and she's leading this entire project with the team members. We'll officially launch India ESG Outlook Report. Then we'll get into the deeper insights of what all we have covered. But if you can get the first 2 slides of the report before we launch it, so that we set the perspective here. Next one. The report looks at 4 key environmental indicators. While we are calling it ESG report, we have focused a lot on environmental part only, because that's where we wanted to, because social we are covering tomorrow in India CSR Outlook Report anyways. So environment we wanted to cover today, and governance I'm leaving all to all of you that this is internal, largely internal, and we have to deal with it. But we wanted to cover 4 key indicators or key areas in the entire environment segment: emissions, energy, water, and waste. And we have looked at 227 large companies in BSE 250. We were able to get data from only 227 companies for last financial year. And we had tried to analyze the data of those 227 companies. And on that basis, we have prepared a report which is more of a sectoral analysis, and probably there are many surprising factors for all of us that when you combine the data at the sector level, you really see that there's a lot of deviation, lot of differences in terms of how businesses operate in their industry segment. We'll go for the Outlook report launch first, and then I'll hand over to Ritika to talk more about the insights from the report. So can we have the report, please? Ritika, over to you.
Thank you so much, Bhomik, and good evening, everybody. So moving ahead, we have assurance as a component which is mentioned in the BRSR report. Basically, what assurance means is the third-party evaluation that happens for the BRSR report, and it is like recently in 23-24 only has been mandated by SEBI. Yeah. And for sectors such as oil, gas, and consumable fuels, chemicals, and real estate, we have seen that 100% of these sectors have adopted assurance and are depending on the third party for making the transparency and reliability of the report that they publish. Next, we have environmental footprint. So here what we see is that the sectors that focus on reducing the environmental footprint, focusing on different environmental indicators, such as emission, energy, water, and waste. So these are the key indicators that the report follows. As we can see, emission reduction is key in the oil, gas, and consumable fuel sector. This also correlates to the fact that this sector also has focus on and also is a very big contributor to greenhouse gas emission, right? So due to its burning fossil fuel for the energy production and transportation, this sector has high dependency and generates high amount of emission. That's why also the sector focuses more towards emission reduction. Similarly, banking and finance services sector is prioritizing energy efficiency. Realty and construction sector is prioritizing water conservation, and capital good has its priority towards the waste management. Next, we have energy from renewable sources. So with renewable energy coming in front, this is seen in recent years that the sectors are slowly and gradually moving towards adopting renewable energy, which we can clearly see that 40% of chemical sector is leading in all the sectors which has adopted the renewable energy. While oil, gas, consumer fuels, and services sectors are still lagging behind, but the trend that has been seen while developing this report was that the sectors are realizing their responsibility towards adapting renewable energy and are slowly taking steps to move towards it. Next, we have sectoral comparison of scope 1, 2, and 3 emission. So when we go in depth to emission, we have 3 types of emission, which are the scope 1 emission, scope 2 emission, scope 3 emission, which we all are aware of. When we, like the findings that we derived were like the sectors accounting for majority of scope 1 emissions were with 80% were power, realty and construction and services. Banking and financial service sector and healthcare pharmaceutical sector are also significantly growing towards having scope 2 emissions, And automobile and auto components, consumer durable and capital goods sectors have highest of over 90% scope 3 emissions, which is quite a lot. And what we also see that the sectors are starting to take initiatives to reduce this. However, they are still in progress. Next, we have water. And like here we are understanding how the sources of water are different and the dependency of different sector is totally different towards different source of water. So when we see the sources of water, we have surface water, groundwater, third-party water, and seawater. So what we found was power sector is primarily using the surface water, accounting for 40% of its consumption. Realty and construction sector has the highest dependency on groundwater, with over 50% of its water coming from the source. Banking and financial service sector primarily relies on third-party water, accounting to around 73% of its water consumption. Oil, gas and consumable fuel sector is primarily using seawater with over 40% of its consumption from the sea. What we observed here was that all the sectors have significant reliance on water, leading to a substantial water depletion. So like what we refer from here and what we reflected was that there is an urgent need to focus on achieving water positivity index through sustainable operations and improving our strategies toward water management. Next. Yeah. Next we have water intensity. So basically what water intensity defines is that this is the data shows like how many liters of water companies in different sectors use to generate 1 rupee of revenue. As we can see, power sector has a high water intensity, which is primarily due to cooling system and their water intensive processes in its operations. However, sectors like service, IT, banking and financial services generally have low water intensity, which is also due to their office-based operations and limited water usage. Next, we have the waste generation indicator, which where we can see that metal and mining and power sector generates a significant amount of other non-hazardous waste exceeding to 97%. Oil, gas and chemical sectors are major contributor to hazardous waste, whereas a very surprising finding that we got here was that IT and communication sector accounts for the majority of over 50% waste is the construction and demolition waste, which was not actually expected from our side as well. But what we found was that the increase in number of their physical offices has led to a very high increase of their construction and demolition waste, which makes them the largest largest producer of this waste. So this is all that we have, in very crisp, we are trying to tell you here, and there is a lot to know more in the report. So thank you so much, and we'll request you all to kindly go through the report and find the detailed insights which are like, you will also be quite surprised with a lot of findings and will also open eyes of all of us, like what is happening in the sector and where do we need to work more to get a sustainable future. Thank you so much.